They were terrified. They were absolutely terrified. And I certainly don't blame them for that. We were under a lot of stress, a lot of stress. The religious right was all over us. We were getting 1,000 pieces of mail a week in sacks. They were coming into the office. This guy, Wildman, was taking ads out, in every major newspaper in America, telling terrible lies about us and the show. And of course, he'd never seen it. No one had ever seen the damn thing. So, there was no way. But he was saddling us up for his own purposes, and he probably raised millions and millions of dollars by attacking us. And he got the affiliates so terrified, and the advertisers so terrified, that I think our viability was very threatened. And when we went on the air, we were an instant hit, thank God, because had we not been, I don't know that we would have lasted 4 episodes, because everyone was so nervous. We fought the battles before we ever made the show. In fact, the show originally was supposed to be on ABC's schedule in the fall of 1992, and it got postponed a year because when they read the script, they panicked about the language, and they panicked about every bit of it. And so rather than water it down, we just withdrew, said, okay, let's not do it. But it was such a compelling piece of material that it took a year, but they finally came around. Well, in those days, it was Iger. Bob Iger was the head of ABC, and directly under him was Ted Harbert and Stu Bloomberg. But at this level, at that stage of the show's development, ABC was still owned by Cap Cities. What the hell was his name? Gosh. It was Murphy and, we'll get back to that. But I was dealing with those guys. They were the heads of Cap City. I mean, this is big corporate policy stuff, and they were very, very nervous. Dan Burke was the guy who was really running Cap Cities. Tom Murphy had kind of withdrawn to a significant extent by then. And Dan Burke was a terrific guy, but boy, I mean, they were just getting hammered. So we had a kind of a rough year before we finally agreed to everything. So we hammered out an agreement. Once the agreement was hammered out and we knew what the parameters were, we had a few bumps after that. When it finally came to life and you actually could see, the stuff you agree to theoretically is one thing. When you actually see it up on its feet and you're seeing rear ends and breasts and you're hearing language that's never been on television before, that's another story. But we weathered that storm. And overall, I've had fewer battles with broadcast standards over NYPD Blue than I've ever had on any other show, because all the conflicts were front-loaded, and we were so specific in negotiating what we could and couldn't do that after that it was easy. Bob Iger and I sat in his office one day like 6th graders drawing pictures of naked girls. I mean, it was that stupid, Well, can I do this, and show this much, or, and neither one of us, believe me, is Picasso here, so it was pretty goofy. But it was the only way that I knew to actually say, well, you're going to see this, but you won't see that. The language, that was another story altogether. I mean, we wrote our first draft. It was loaded with language. It freaked them out. And by the time we finally settled our language negotiation, we had a glossary. We actually had a glossary of words that we could use. And then we negotiated the number of times you could say these words in an episode. And do not ask me how, because I can't remember. We finally settled on the number 37, so that in the aggregate we could use bad words 37 times an episode. And I remember one time early in the first season, 4th, 5th episode, something like that, we had a scene that we actually shot in New York where we're stopping cars before they go up on the West Side Highway because we're looking for a perpetrator or something. And some guy in traffic gets very annoyed because the cars are backing up and he's late, and so he just comes out around and he goes right through the roadblock and he gives Sipowicz the finger. Now Sipowicz chases him down, and they have a confrontation. So they say, well, you can't have anybody flipping the bird. We didn't agree to that. I said, well, come on. I mean, I can say asshole, I can say this, I can say, I can't do that. No, it's not acceptable. I said, okay. I said, I tell you what. I said, since our deal says I can use any combination of our words 37 times, I'm going to have this guy call Sipowicz an asshole 37 times in one scene. Or you can let him give, and they folded it right there. I mean, we had some of those kind of discussions. But, that all went away pretty quickly. I made sure it was in writing because I know how those things go. And in fact, the head of their broadcast standards division at the time really tried to renege on the deal on more than one occasion. And I was very glad that I had a paper trail, because I kept copying everybody on these faxes and emails and things, so that there was no misunderstanding about what we had all agreed to. And every time we made an agreement on something, I'd put it in writing and I'd send it to everybody. So I covered my butt.